Listen closely, because what you're about to hear may completely change how you see the people around you. Let me ask you something. How many people have you rescued who would never do the same for you? Think about it carefully. You lift them every time they fall. You clean up the problems they create. You give up your sleep, your money, your peace of mind, believing that this time they'll finally change. But they don't. They never evolve. They don't even feel thankful. And here's the truth most people are afraid to admit. You're not helping them. You're enabling them. You're strengthening their weakness while destroying your own power. Machiavelli understood something. Modern society refuses to face helping the wrong person is more dangerous than having an enemy. An enemy confronts you openly. The wrong person drains you slowly, quietly, without shame, without limits. Think back to the last time you tried to save someone drowning in their own chaos. Did they rise, or did they drag you down with them? You already know. Here's the darker psychological reality. The more you rescue someone who refuses to save themselves, the more they begin to see your help as an entitlement. They stop respecting you. They stop listening to you. They stop valuing you. Because in their mind, if you keep saving them, then you must owe them something. This is how good people lose their strength. This is how strong people burn out. This is how kind people get exploited, emptied, and eventually betrayed. But that ends today, because in this video, you'll learn the 7 types of people Machiavelli warned you must never help. Not because you lack compassion, but because these people will destroy your time, your energy, your reputation, and your future. And by the end, you'll clearly know who deserves your help and who deserves distance. Before we move forward, drop this affirmation in the comments. My energy is not free. Number 1, the chronically lazy. There is a certain type of person you must learn to recognize immediately if you want to protect your power. The chronically lazy. Not the exhausted, not the overwhelmed, not those facing real hardship. We're talking about people who have turned laziness into a permanent lifestyle. People who can work but refuse to. People who can take responsibility but choose excuses instead. People who wake up every day making the same unspoken decision. Someone else will carry me. These are the individuals Machiavelli would warn you about first, because they don't appear dangerous. They're quiet. They're passive. They don't attack. They drain you slowly through dependence, softness, and endless justifications. And that's what makes them so dangerous. They look harmless, yet they consume your time, your mental energy, and eventually your self-respect. Chronically lazy people have perfected one skill: avoiding effort. Ask them about their dreams. They have many. Ask them what they're doing today. Suddenly the excuses appear. Their past was hard. No one supported them. Luck failed them. The system is unfair. These excuses become armor, shielding them from accountability. But here's the real danger. They don't want progress. They want comfort. And your effort becomes their comfort. They don't use your help as a ladder upward. They use it as a couch, something to lie on while you carry the weight. You think you're supporting them. They think you're doing their work. Machiavelli once warned, "He who refuses to act does not deserve the rewards of action." If someone won't lift even a single stone in their own life, you should never carry mountains for them. A true struggler shows movement, slow, small, but real. The chronically lazy show nothing but stories, promises, and complaints. You can identify them with one simple question. What are you doing right now to change your situation? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not someday, right now. If the answer is silence, excuses, or endless storytelling, you're dealing with a professional victim, not a struggler. And here's the hardest truth. By constantly helping them, you remove the one thing they desperately need: hunger. Without hunger, there is no drive. Without discomfort, there is no change. Without consequences, there is no growth. Every time you rescue them, you weaken them further. And eventually, they will resent you for what you represent. Your discipline becomes their insecurity. Your strength becomes their jealousy. Your success becomes a mirror they hate looking into. This is why helping them isn't kindness, it's self-destruction. They won't rise. They won't change. They won't suddenly become responsible. because laziness isn't their problem. It's their identity, and if you carry them long enough, they'll start believing they deserve it. So step back. Let life's weight fall on their shoulders. It's the only lesson your help could never teach them. Before we move on to number 2, drop this affirmation in the comments. I release dead weight. Number 2, the perpetually ungrateful. There is a certain type of person who can exhaust even the strongest. Kindest, most generous soul. They don't attack you. They don't raise their voice. They don't create obvious conflict. Instead, they do something far more quiet and far more destructive. They never appreciate anything. These are the perpetually ungrateful people, the ones who turn your generosity into a habit, your sacrifices into expectations, and your kindness into their personal comfort zone. They don't recognize your effort. They don't acknowledge your intention, and they absolutely do not value the time, resources, or emotional labor you give. Ungrateful people operate from one dangerous belief. You owe me. You support them. They expect more. You show up for them. They assume you always will. You go out of your way to make their life easier. They instantly forget how hard it was for you. The danger here isn't loud or obvious. It's subtle and lethal. Ungrateful people don't drain you because they're needy. They drain you because they feel entitled. When someone is genuinely grateful, their appreciation energizes you. It makes you want to help again. But when someone feels entitled, your help does the opposite. It feeds their ego. They don't remember your sacrifices. They only remember the one moment you didn't show up. Machiavelli once observed, "Men quickly forget the good they have received, but never forget the good they expected and did not get." This is exactly how the ungrateful operate. They erase every good thing you've done. They magnify the smallest thing you didn't. They don't see your help as a gift. They see it as something they are owed. And the moment someone believes your effort is their right, your value in their life begins to drop. Because in their mind, if you give easily, then what you give must not be valuable. This psychology destroys relationships, families, friendships, partnerships. Ungrateful people make you question your worth. Not because you failed them, but because they are incapable of seeing what you already gave. They don't say thank you because they believe they deserve more. They don't acknowledge your help because they think it was the minimum. They don't appreciate your support because they expect it to continue, without limits. And here's the most painful truth. Ungrateful people upgrade their demands faster than you can upgrade your kindness. Give them a little, they want more. Give them a lot, they still want more. Give them everything, they complain that something is missing. You cannot win with them. You cannot satisfy them, and you cannot create loyalty through generosity. Because to the ungrateful, generosity is simply permission to take more, without ever giving anything back. Your resources disappear, your time is consumed, your emotional energy is drained, and your return is zero. And when you finally pull back, they won't self-reflect. They won't apologize. They won't acknowledge their role. Instead, they become offended. They say, "You've changed." They position themselves as the victim. This is why helping them is a losing battle. You give strength, they give bitterness. You offer support, they return entitlement. Let them go. You are not here to pour into empty people who refuse to recognize your value. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My kindness has boundaries. Number 3, the arrogant and self-righteous. There is a type of person who doesn't need help, doesn't want guidance, and doesn't benefit from wisdom because in their mind, they already know everything. These are the arrogant and self-righteous people, those who walk through life wearing a crown they never earned. They are not confident. They are not strong. They are not wise. They are simply in love with the sound of their own opinions. You can recognize them immediately. They interrupt every explanation. They correct others without understanding the full story. They dismiss advice before they even listen. And most importantly, they confuse stubbornness with intelligence. Trying to help them feels like speaking to a wall, but the wall argues back. These individuals are not seeking growth. They are seeking validation. They don't want truth. They want proof that they are right. And if you dare to question their beliefs, even gently, they don't question their ideas. They question you, This is why helping them always backfires. Every piece of advice you offer threatens the one thing they worship most, their ego. Machiavelli once observed, "Men judge more by the eye than by the mind." Self-righteous people are the perfect example. They care more about appearing wise, superior, or knowledgeable than about whether their choices actually make sense. When you try to guide them, you are not combating ignorance. You are confronting pride wrapped in certainty. Arrogant people fear one thing above all else, being proven wrong. They will cling to a failing plan just to avoid admitting a mistake. They will defend a disastrous decision simply because it was their decision. They will reject logic if it threatens their inflated self-image. Here's where the danger becomes real. If you help them and things succeed, they take all the credit. If you help them and things fail, they blame you. There is no winning with someone who believes they are above correction. They are emotionally allergic to humility. They see self-reflection as weakness. They see learning as admitting failure, and they see your guidance as an insult, not a gift. People like this don't grow, at least not until life hits them harder than your advice ever could. They need consequences powerful enough to shatter their pride. They need silence deep enough to reveal their limitations. They need reality to humble them in ways no person can. And your role is not to battle their ego. Your role is to step aside. Stop wasting your energy on someone who blocks every door you open. When you stop helping them, you protect your dignity. You protect your time. You protect your emotional strength. And you allow life to become the teacher they truly need. Because here's the truth. The arrogant cannot hear wisdom until their pride breaks. And you are not the one who should break it. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I protect my peace. Number 4, the habitually wicked. Some people make mistakes. Some lose their way for a moment. Some fall into temptation because they are human. Those people deserve guidance, correction, and sometimes forgiveness. But then there is an entirely different breed, the habitually wicked. These are not people who slipped once. These are people who have chosen cruelty, deception, and harm as a lifestyle. It's not an accident. It's not a phase. It's who they are. The habitually wicked don't just break rules, they savor breaking them. They don't just lie. They polish the lie until it looks like the truth. They don't just manipulate, they refine manipulation until it feels natural. You can see it in their patterns. Every relationship they touch ends in damage. Every opportunity they receive turns into chaos. Every person who helps them eventually regrets it. Their skill isn't growth, it's destruction. What makes them especially dangerous is how they often appear charming, confident, persuasive, even charismatic. They know exactly how to hide their true intentions. They can act sweet, humble, wounded, responsible, whatever serves the moment. But beneath the performance lies the same core self-interest, without conscience. Machiavelli once said, "A man who causes harm will do so whenever it is useful for him." This describes the habitually wicked perfectly. If betraying you benefits them, they will not hesitate. If taking your resources makes their life easier, they will take everything. If dragging you into their darkness saves them from consequences, they will do it without guilt. Helping them is not kindness, it's complicity. Every opportunity you give becomes fuel for their next destructive act. Every door you open becomes a weapon they may eventually use, sometimes even against you. And here's the part most people ignore until it's too late. When you help the wicked, you inherit their consequences. When they lie, your name is linked. When they cheat, you are seen as complicit. When they fall, you fall with them. Not because you caused it, but because you stood too close enough to appear like an accomplice. Your reputation is your currency, and the wicked bankrupt anyone who stands beside them. Even worse, they feel no remorse, no reflection, no guilt. They don't apologize, they justify. They don't regret the harm, they regret being caught. They don't correct their behavior, they only seek the next opportunity, the next helper. You cannot heal someone who doesn't see themselves as broken. You cannot guide someone who believes morality is optional. You cannot protect someone who thrives on chaos. The best way to deal with the habitually wicked is not redemption, it's distance. cold, unapologetic distance. Cutting them off is not cruelty. It's self-defense. It's wisdom. It's survival. And remember, when someone chooses evil over and over, helping them does not make you good. It makes you a tool in their destruction. Before we continue, drop this affirmation in the comments. I refuse to aid darkness. Number 5. The incurably foolish. There is a type of person you cannot save, no matter how much knowledge, guidance, or experience you pour into them. These are not the ignorant. These are not the inexperienced. These are the incurably foolish. People who refuse to learn from their mistakes, no matter how obvious, painful, or repeated. A fool is not defined by a lack of intelligence. A fool is defined by a stubborn refusal to grow. They have every opportunity. They have every resource. They have every piece of advice in the world. And yet, they ignore it. They ignore it because they believe they know better. They ignore it because they are addicted to the comfort of repeating failure. Every crisis, every mistake, every downfall carries a lesson. But the incurably foolish refuse to be students of reality. You can pull them out of one disaster, and they will march straight into the next, repeating the same patterns, convinced they are untouchable. Machiavelli once said, "Experience is the teacher of all things, but only to those who are willing to learn." The incurably foolish are unwilling students. They treat every failure as someone else's fault. They rationalize every mistake as the result of circumstance, luck, or the unfairness of the world. They never, not once, turn the mirror inward. Your role with them is deceptively dangerous. Every time you step in to fix their problems, you are not saving them. You are repeating their cycle. You are reinforcing their belief that someone else will always carry the consequences of their actions. You are not helping them grow. You are enabling their folly. The pattern is always the same. You give advice. You provide guidance. You offer support. They nod. They may even promise to change. And then, the moment you are not looking, they repeat the same mistake. This is the cruelest truth about dealing with fools. Your words, your time, your energy, every effort is wasted. Not because they cannot learn, but because they refuse to learn. And here's the subtle danger most people overlook. When you continue to rescue them, you drain your own life force. You exhaust your patience. You weaken your boundaries. You risk pulling yourself into their recurring chaos. Machiavelli's wisdom here is sharp and clear. He who continually rescues the foolish only binds himself to their misfortune. The incurably foolish will never thank you. They will never respect you. They will never become the person you hoped they would. The only way to protect yourself, and to let reality teach them, is to step back. Let them face the natural consequences of their actions. Let them feel the sting of failure. Let them feel the discomfort of mistakes. Let them experience the isolation that comes from repeating folly. Only then, if ever, they might recognize the lessons that your guidance could never force them to see. It is not cruelty to stop rescuing them. It is discipline. It is wisdom. It is survival. Remember, your role is not to carry the unteachable. Your role is to invest in growth, in learning, and in those who are willing to evolve. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I release those who refuse to learn. Number 6. The master manipulator. Some people don't ask for help, at least not directly. Not honestly. They don't say, "I need your time, your advice, your energy." Instead, they weave invisible strings around you, pulling without your consent. These are the master manipulators. They are skilled artists of human emotion, painting stories that trigger guilt, pity, and obligation. They don't just ask, they engineer. They don't just speak, they perform. A master manipulator understands your mind better than you do yourself. They know your weaknesses, your desires, your principles, and they craft every word, every action, every glance to move you exactly where they want. Sometimes they appear helpless, innocent, in need of rescue. Sometimes they appear strong, misunderstood, a victim of the world. Sometimes they switch roles mid-conversation, just to test which version of themselves captures your attention, your sympathy, your compliance. Machiavelli once said, "Men are driven by two things, fear and desire. To control them, one must understand both. Master manipulators exploit this truth relentlessly. They know your desire to help, to save, to be kind. They know your fear of conflict, of being judged, of seeming cruel, and they turn it into their playground. Every favor you give, every compromise you make, every moment you invest, they record it as currency, a debt they never intend to repay. They don't appreciate your effort. They exploit it. They don't respect your boundaries. They test them constantly. And if you resist, if you withdraw, they turn the story against you. Suddenly, you are the villain. Suddenly, your strength is selfishness. Suddenly, the problem is entirely yours. The subtlety is the danger. A master manipulator doesn't yell. They don't attack openly. They operate quietly, invisibly, twisting the narrative until your energy belongs to them. The lesson here is brutal but necessary. You cannot save a manipulator. You cannot reason with them. You cannot convince them to act in your favor. Your only power lies in cutting the supply. Your attention, your energy, your approval. Once you stop responding, stop reacting, refuse to play their emotional games, they move on. They find a new source, a new person to drain, a new person to twist. And this is why Machiavelli's advice applies. The wise ruler avoids giving power to those who will use it to destroy him. Master manipulators will never value your generosity. They will never respect your boundaries. They will never act with loyalty or gratitude. Your responsibility is not to teach them lessons. Your responsibility is to protect yourself. Withdraw calmly, decisively, and without guilt. Your energy is not theirs to take. Your kindness is not their right. Your life is not their playground. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I take back my power. Number 7. The unrepentant rebel. Some people know the rules and choose to break them anyway. They understand right from wrong, success from failure, discipline from chaos, and yet they deliberately defy every standard. These are the unrepentant rebels, not lost souls, not confused wanderers, not those unaware of consequences. These are people at war with reality itself. They see the line, and their greatest pleasure is crossing it. They know the limits, and their instinct is to push further. They understand the stakes, and still they gamble recklessly. You can give advice. You can offer wisdom. You can pull them back from disaster, and they will smile, nod politely, and continue exactly as before. The unrepentant rebel doesn't change because someone else tries to change them. They change only when they tire of their own chaos. And that exhaustion is never brought by your intervention. Machiavelli once said, "A wise ruler must know when to use force and when to let the inevitable unfold." This is the principle with unrepentant rebels. Your help cannot force insight. Your guidance cannot force growth. Your sacrifice cannot force responsibility. Every effort you make to save them is inverted, turned against you. Your time becomes a resource they exploit. Your patience becomes a tool for their rebellion. Your loyalty becomes their expectation. The more you fight for them, the less they fight for themselves. The unrepentant rebel thrives on attention, resistance, and the energy others expend trying to correct them. They enjoy watching people exhaust themselves on causes they will never honor. They take satisfaction in knowing the world bends around their whims, while consequences are someone else's problem. Here's the harsh truth. You cannot fight someone else's defiance with mercy or effort. You cannot impose change from the outside. You can only observe and protect yourself. When dealing with the unrepentant rebel, your first responsibility is your own boundaries. Do not confuse endurance with strength. Do not confuse intervention with love. Do not confuse sacrifice with progress. Let reality, not your efforts, teach the lesson they refuse to learn. Let natural consequences weigh in. Let the discomfort of repeated choices become the teacher you cannot be. This does not make you cold. It makes you wise. It makes you strategic. It makes you untouchable. The unrepentant rebel is a storm. You cannot stop the storm. You cannot change the storm. But you can take shelter. You can preserve your strength. You can decide where to stand and when to withdraw. You can ensure that when the storm passes, you remain intact and they remain in the chaos they chose. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I protect my path. What you should do instead. Now that you've seen the 7 types of people Machiavelli warns you must never help, it's time to step back and ask yourself a hard question. Are you helping the right people, or are you pouring energy into those who will never value it? Here's the cold, unfiltered truth. Mercy without judgment is not kindness. It's self-destruction. Every minute, every resource, every ounce of energy you spend on the wrong person is taken from your own growth, power, and stability. But discernment doesn't make you cruel. It makes you wise. It makes you strategic. It allows you to focus on those who are willing to rise, willing to learn, and willing to face consequences to become stronger. Step 1. Know the difference between struggle and choice. A person genuinely struggling, someone doing everything they can, despite circumstances, deserves your help. A person who has made the choice to remain lazy, arrogant, manipulative, or rebellious, someone who enjoys repeating mistakes, does not. Your responsibility is not to fix choices that were consciously made. Your responsibility is to protect yourself from the consequences of those choices. Step 2. Redefine compassion. True compassion is not always pulling someone out of the fire. Sometimes it's letting them burn. Sometimes it's letting them face discomfort so they finally see the truth. True compassion is knowing when your help will teach and when it will only enable. It is giving energy where it grows and withholding energy where it destroys. Step 3. Protect your resources. Time, attention, money, and emotional energy are not infinite. They are your power, and a wise person invests only where there is loyalty, growth, and transformation. Helping the wrong people is like planting seeds in barren soil. You water, nurture, and care, but nothing grows. Meanwhile, your own garden withers. Step 4. Set boundaries decisively. Say no without guilt. Withdraw without drama. Step back without hesitation. When you stop enabling, you stop being a tool for their chaos. When you step back, you give reality a chance to teach them the lessons they refuse to learn from you. Step 5. Invest in the right people. Notice those who are hungry for growth. Notice those who face their mistakes. Notice those who fight for themselves, even when it's uncomfortable. These are the people who will respect your help, who will rise, and who will eventually help others in return. This is how influence multiplies. This is how loyalty is built. Finally, ask yourself these piercing questions. Who am I helping right now that I actually need to let go? Who am I constantly rescuing who actually needs to face their own consequences? Who am I enabling who should be allowed to experience the weight of their actions? Machiavelli would say, mercy without judgment is not kindness. It is self-destruction, and that is the ultimate lesson. Your strength, your energy, your wisdom are weapons, and you must use them wisely. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I invest in growth, not destruction. If this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who always helps everyone and ends up exhausted. Like this video if it gave you clarity. Subscribe for more Machiavellian breakdowns of human nature, power, and strategy. Remember, helping the wrong person is a trap. Helping the right person is your path to influence, respect, and unstoppable power.